Mother Nature is unpredictable. She can give us things of incredible beauty, moments of sheer terror and devastation, or incidents that make us think, what the hell is going on? Today we're taking a closer look at some of the strangest stuff our planet has ever seen. From a flock of traveling butterflies to some unique and alarming ice spikes, let's take a look at 20 strange natural phenomena that happened on Earth. Number 20. Monarch butterfly migration. When we think about awesome animal migrations, it seems like butterflies never really enter the conversation. We focus on penguins or birds or Canadians most of the time, but these tiny, beautiful creatures have a truly fascinating migration experience that must be seen to be believed. Every year, millions of monarch butterflies in North America begin their stunning migration adventure. While some butterflies can survive winter, typically in larvae, pupae, or even adult form, the monarch simply can't. So when they start to notice the environmental cues signaling that winter is coming, hi Game of Thrones fans, the butterflies begin their trek south for the winter. In fact, this is the only species of butterfly known to make this unique two-way migration, just as birds do. But they don't all go to the same vacation destination, of course, because that would be quite alarming. Can you imagine your town suddenly becoming home to millions and millions of butterflies in the space of a month? The monarchs that live in eastern North America fly to their second home in Mexico's Sierra Madre Mountains, while those in western North America travel all the way to California. That can be a journey of as much as 3,000 miles, and they rely heavily on air currents and thermals to travel those long distances. Bet they wish they got air miles on a journey like that. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. It's time for the rare topic. A man in his vehicle witnessed this peculiar sight and was able to take photos of it. Looming over the skies of Brazil, this colossal creature has been spotted reaching down from the sky. But rest assured, it's just a very unique cloud formation. The photo soon went viral because people believed it to be proof of a giant lurking in the shadows. What do you think? Is this a particularly unique example of natural phenomena, or just more proof of giants? Comment down below with the hashtag #RareTopic and let us know your opinion about what we just saw. With that said, let's keep things moving. Number 19. Penitentes. When you get lost in the wilderness, you find yourself searching for just about anything that could lead you to civilization. But what if you were to find these things? Well, you'd probably just assume you were lost on an alien planet. Spiky icicles? In sci-fi movies, that's a sign you're probably gonna die. But they're not actually icicles, they're penitentes, snow formations that appear as elongated, thin blades of ice. And they're not man-made, but I think you figured that out by now. Actually, this unique shape and formation is all thanks to the effects of the high-altitude environment in which they thrive. You can find these penitentes in every snow-covered area, in the dry Andes, and above 13,000 feet. So that's kinda comforting, right? If you were lost, you'd probably be dead before you found them. What a lovely thought that is. The penitentes range from a few centimeters tall to well over 16 feet. Which would undoubtedly be a good reason to be scared, for as weird and unsettling as the scene may look, the ice penitentes are among the most beautiful natural phenomena in the natural world. But boy, they are weird. If you happen to stumble upon an entire landscape, it's easy to see how you could believe you were in an alien world. Either way, the big thing to remember is, just don't trip. Number 18. Frost flowers. It seems like everybody loves flowers. In fact, some people love flowers so much that they dedicate their lives to finding and arranging them. But in Antarctica, finding flowers is less of a pretty experience and more of a "dear Lord, I need help" kind of a thing. Frost flowers, as they're known, form on calm ocean surfaces in the Arctic and Antarctic seas, when the extremely dry air is colder than the water. So I think it's pretty clear to see why you would need all the help you can get with an environment like this. These 3D snowflakes require a particular set of circumstances to form, but those conditions are pretty much everything that the human body cannot tolerate. Specifically, the frost flowers can only form at a temperature of around -7.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Even our viewers in Alaska or Iceland would say nope to that one. So the Antarctic is pretty much a go-to place for death now. Humans have absolutely no way of surviving in an environment as unforgiving and brutal as this one. And I don't think I have to say it, but don't get your mom a bouquet of frost flowers, mostly because it'll just be a bag of water when you finally bring them home. Number 17. Sardine Run. When you think about great animal migrations, sardines are probably not high on the list, but you know what? They certainly should be, because as it turns out, these guys are surprisingly good movers. Just wait until you see this. In southern Africa, the sardine run usually happens from May to July and generally sees billions of sardines traveling from the cool waters of Agulhas Bank to the east coast of South Africa. The sheer number of sardines creates quite the feeding frenzy all along the coastline, featuring millions and millions of individual sardines. According to researchers, the sardine run easily rivals East Africa's Great Wildebeest Migration as the largest animal migration on the continent. But it seems like the phenomenon is generally pretty inconsistent. Some years the sardines don't even seem to run at all, and nobody is really sure why. According to the research, it would seem that the temperature must drop below 21 degrees Celsius in order for the migration to happen. But that's about all that's known for sure. Otherwise, it's pretty much one phenomenal and extremely fishy mystery. But hey, if ever you get asked which animal migration is your favorite, you have a great answer, although I can't imagine where you would be to get a question like that. Number 16. Light pillars. Be honest, if you see a giant pillar of light in the distance, you're immediately going to think aliens. It's human nature, and it's a dang good guess. It's wrong, of course, but it's a pretty understandable leap to make. Actually, light pillars are a unique optical phenomenon in which a vertical beam of light extends above or below a light source. It simply looks like some kind of spotlight or a bat signal being projected up into the sky from a distance, but not quite. Actually, it's caused by the reflection of light from tiny ice crystals suspended in the atmosphere, which is a very fancy and long way of saying science. If you want the explain like I'm 5 version, it's light being reflected by thousands of tiny mirrors hanging in midair, creating the illusion of the light going much higher or lower than it actually is. Like just about everything else on Earth, science is nothing more than a smoke and mirrors illusion. But hey, when it looks as stunning as this, you can't complain about it. I mean, I would happily allow nature to trick me if I got to briefly think there was a bat signal. Number 15. Supercell storms. From the name alone, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the supercell is some kind of extremely high-security jail cell, but no, I'm here to tell you that a supercell is just a very unique kind of storm. Which is less interesting, I know, but I'm sure the prison supercell is coming. The supercell is characterized by the presence of a deep, persistently rotating updraft, also known as a mesocyclone. That constantly rotating updraft is why they're often known as rotating thunderstorms. Of all 4 kinds of thunderstorms, the supercell is both the least common and also the most severe. Because they're so isolated from other thunderstorms, they can dominate weather up to 20 miles away and last for hours. So yeah, they can be pretty rough, and they can happen anywhere in the world if the right conditions come together. But if you asked me to highlight one place where they happen the most, there's an area of the Great Plains known as Tornado Alley. It's here that you'll find the highest concentration of supercells in the world. Assuming that you're brave enough to risk it, of course. They're not exactly fun. Number 14. Gateway to Hell. For centuries now, the big debate has centered around whether or not hell exists. And if it did, was it really other people? Almost definitely, but today we're going to take a look at the real-life gateway to hell. And no, it's not in Alaska. I don't know why so many of you were convinced that it was. Welcome to Turkmenistan, home of Turkmenistan things, but mostly home to the Darvaza gas crater, or Gateway to Hell, if you're casual like that. This is easily one of the biggest attractions in the whole country, which is fascinating, considering that it's just a big hole in the ground with some fire in it. It's not exactly Disneyland, is it? But hey, it's close. That fire has been burning non-stop for 48 years, which is why it earned the nickname the Gateway to Hell. But actually, the whole thing was kick-started when scientists tried to stop an unused oil field from emitting methane gas. Obviously, it didn't work and the flames kicked up and just never stopped, which pretty much sums up every science experiment in history. Science, of course, hasn't actually proven the existence of hell, so it's possible that it is just a big pit with a fire in it. We'll never know. Number 13. The Great Blue Hole. There's a lot of curious stuff in Belize, but this, the giant blue hole, is one of the most curious of all. If you knew nothing about it, it would be easy to assume this was the portal to another world. Actually, the Great Blue Hole is a giant marine sinkhole off the coast of Belize, made famous through the work of legendary diver Jacques Cousteau. Back during Cousteau's time, he named it one of the top 5 scuba diving sites in the world and even brought his ship to the site in the 70s to fully chart its depths. Their work measured that the Great Blue Hole was around 410 feet deep, a figure still cited today. And it seems with every passing year, people become more determined to figure out just how big the hole really is. In December 2018, 2 submarines ventured into the hole with sonar scanning technology to create a 3D map of the site. They found more than they expected, realizing that a layer of hydrogen sulfide prevented people from going deeper than 300 feet. Those that tried suffered a watery fate, as evidenced by the bodies of 2 divers found on the ocean surface. Let that be a lesson to all of you. Don't ever cross the do not cross line. Number 12. Red Crab Migration. Despite what the name suggests, Christmas Island has absolutely nothing to do with the holiday whatsoever. But like Christmas, the island is filled with what can only be described as gifts for scientists and other curious minds. Happy holidays to all of us. Christmas Island is home to one of the most spectacular mass animal migrations in the world, thanks to the red crab. The Christmas Island red crab is native to, you guessed it, Christmas Island and Cocos Islands in the Indian Ocean. But while they're kept to this small part of the world, there were once around 43.7 million of them. That figure is much less now, with the yellow crazy ant believed to have killed around 10 to 15 million in recent years. Perhaps that's why the crabs engage in this unique annual mass migration, which sees them venturing to the ocean to lay their eggs, the one place ants can't get them. The migration typically begins in October or November, though it tends to follow the moon's phases, making it more variable. But what isn't variable is that the migration is always a stunning sight to behold, no matter when it happens. Number 11. Pororoca. You wouldn't see a surfer riding a quiet ocean surface, right? If a wave is popular with surfers, you know that it's gonna have a real kick to it. The Pororoca is one of those waves, and it's also one of the most dangerous. The Pororoca is a tidal bore, with waves reaching up to 13 feet high, and traveling as much as 500 miles inland. Its name translates to the Great Roar, which really suggests just how dangerous this wave can be. But hey, a little danger never stopped a surfer. Since 1999, the Pororoca has been the site of an annual championship. that sees surfers attempting to ride the legendary wave, but it's really not safe, and not just because of the intensity of the wave. The wave of the Pororoca contains quite a lot of debris from the shores, not to mention fauna that's incredibly dangerous in its own right. All things considered, this is really not the kind of wave that you want to take a risk on, and yet we all know that surfers will continue to do so because it's just not in their nature to sit on the side and, well, protect their lives. It's the thrill of the wave, man. Number 10. Sundog. Say hello to the sundog. Not quite as cute as it sounds, but pretty majestic all the same. However, I would be the first to say that a dog laying out in the sun would be just as amazing to see. A sundog is an atmospheric optical illusion characterized by a bright spot to one or both sides of the sun. Usually 2 sundogs will be seen flanking the sun, and it makes for one heck of a selfie. Like most optical illusions in cold temperatures, the sundog is caused by the refraction of sunlight by ice crystals in the atmosphere. Or, to make it a little less scientific, the ice hangs in the air and acts as a kind of mirror, reflecting the light and giving the impression of this unique halo. It's pretty breathtaking, isn't it? The sundog can happen anywhere in the world and at any time, though they're not always obvious. Or bright, in fact. Some of them are so dull and subtle, you may not even notice them. And just one last little tip if you're planning on seeking one out, they're usually easiest to see when the sun is close to the horizon. Number 9. Massive spider webs. As far as we know, there is no such thing as a real-life Spider-Man, which means that this whole ordeal is the result of a lot of spiders, and that honestly is just more frightening for an arachnophobe like me. Residents of an Australian town woke up one morning to find their entire town was covered in this unusual-looking substance. When they got a closer look, they determined that the substance in question was the dreaded spider's web. After days of heavy rain, the entire town was coated in giant spider webs stretching across trees and paddocks. And according to experts, it's a total normal response to the flooding. The spiders had apparently taken on a survival tactic known as ballooning, in which spiders throw out their silk to escape the floods and climb to higher ground. By latching onto the trees and paddocks above, they're able to flee certain death. Of course, this is all good news for the spiders who managed to survive, but it's pretty terrifying news for those of us who are already pretty alarmed by spiders at the best of times. To know they're now capable of taking over the town is, well, I will be seeing it in my nightmares. Number 8. Cave of the Crystals. Look, I'm not here to debunk or promote the theories of people that believe crystals have magical healing powers, but if you are somebody that really loves crystals, you're probably gonna love this, because it's a whole cave of them. The Cave of the Crystals is a cave connected to the Neka mine in Chihuahua, Mexico. The chamber is hidden within the limestone host rock of the mine that has been measured to be around 358 feet long and is insane. Inside, experts found giant selenite crystals, some of the largest ever found, throughout the whole of history. The largest crystal was around 37.4 feet, weighing an estimated 12 tons, but the cave overall was pretty much unexplored. The reason for that? It's too dang hot. The air temperature is measured up to 136 Fahrenheit, that's 58 Celsius, with 99% humidity. And you thought your summers were rough. Without proper protection from the heat, visitors can't stay inside the cave for longer than around 10 minutes before it becomes too unsafe. So I guess all those special diamonds and crystals inside will just have to remain undiscovered until we can figure out a way to get air conditioning in there. Number 7. Giant snowballs. For most of us, it's just pure instinct. You see snow on the ground, you make some snowballs, but I don't think any of us would be able to pull off quite this array of ice spheres, at least not without a lot of focus. Welcome to Northwest Siberia, a land where ice and snow are as common as humans breathing. But even for Siberia, this is a strange and unusual sight. An 11-mile stretch of beach in the Gulf of Ob was covered in natural snowballs, seemingly without explanation. The snowballs ranged from the size of a tennis ball to almost 3 feet in width, and locals were pretty stunned when they happened to find them. Science, however, had an answer. This was, of course, a natural occurrence, ruled by wind and water. Small pieces of ice form, developing and growing until they are eventually giant snowballs. Locals in the nearby village were stunned by the sight, saying that they'd never seen anything like it, which is pretty surprising considering how popular Siberia has become in recent years with archaeologists. Apparently finding mammoths' heads in the ice is pretty boring now, but snowballs? Well, that is something brand new. Number 6. The basalt columns. Welcome to Iceland, one of the most stunning locations anywhere on Earth. And today we're celebrating that fact by highlighting Sturlugil and the basalt columns, a legendary part of Icelandic history, and it doesn't look too bad either. What you're looking at here is the work of columnar jointing, a series of basalt columns that intersect to create a fascinating display. These columns have been standing for, well, pretty much always, but for years this whole site was buried underwater, hiding the landscape's natural beauty. Then in 2009, with the angry and intense river finally gone, the world was able to witness this natural wonder for the very first time. Since then, it's become a popular tourist attraction, with many highlighting it as one of the most beautiful places in the entire country, all because of those stunning and unique basalt columns. As for why exactly the river just stopped, that has everything to do with a nearby hydroelectric plant that seriously impacted the river's water source. So, as always, there are pros and cons with everything. Although it forced the river to stop running, we were gifted with a brand new place to celebrate and appreciate Iceland's natural beauty. Not a bad trade-off. Number 5. Forest of Knives. Many people would shy away from exploring the so-called Forest of Knives just based on the name alone. But let me assure you that it's not some hotbed for murderers. Actually, it's a mesmerizing and unforgettable place to visit and explore. Just be careful, of course. The Forest of Knives is merely a nickname for the Tsingy de Bamaraha National Park in Madagascar. This forest has developed a reputation of its very own, all because it's like nowhere else on the planet. Thanks to over 200 million years of heavy tropical rainfall, erosions, caves and tunnels were created and later collapsed, giving way to this stunning sea of towering spires, some of which can reach up to 500 feet tall. But as many have found out, the spires are so sharp that they're able to cut through even the highest quality climbing gloves, so while there may not be any actual knives, there's a lot of knife-like structures at play here. It's definitely not the kind of place you want to make mistakes or do something dumb, but it's a stunning display of the power of nature, and more specifically the way nature can build, destroy, and reconstruct itself over and over again. Not unlike humans when you think about it. That was surprisingly deep, wasn't it? Number 4. Ganja landforms. Anybody that has been on our channel before will know that we're pretty fascinated by the strange lands of China. It seems just about anything can happen over there, and often without any sort of explanation. Do you want an example? The Dansha landforms. There's your example. For some unknown reason, China is the only place on Earth you can find the Dansha landforms, usually described as a red bed characterized by steep cliffs. There is nowhere else on the planet that has a site quite like this, which is pretty great for the Chinese Japanese tourist board, the rainbow-looking cliffs are created throughout a combination of unique forces including uplift, weathering, and erosion. However, it's pretty much impossible to manufacture that combination of elements anywhere else, which is why there will probably never be a Dansha landform outside of China. So if you ever needed a reason to travel, I think you just found it. The Dansha landforms are just one of a whole bunch of fascinating natural phenomena found throughout China. And did we mention they're super old? They date back to the Cretaceous era. All things considered, we should be glad that we still have the Dansha landforms and not, hungry, angry, man-eating dinosaurs. Probably got the better end of that deal. Number 3. Sky Punch. Now we're headed to Canada, the beautiful home of maple syrup, Drake, old Timmy Hortons, but we're not looking at any of those things because we're too busy staring up at the sky. Looks like somebody found a way to punch the sky, but how? It's not photoshopped or some other kind of trickery, I promise. In the winter months, it's pretty common to see these kinds of unusual cloud formations appearing, but you know what? Even if you're kinda used to seeing weird clouds, this is strange. It's not at all surprising to find out that many people report them as UFOs. Yep, that's a thing. Actually, it's just a very strange meteorological phenomenon. The water droplets in the clouds drop to a temperature below zero, but because they have nothing to adhere to, they can't freeze like usual water, so instead they just kinda hang there. So no, nobody actually punched the sky, which is disappointing, but hey, at least we can all take some amusement in the idea of people having to come out to investigate a UFO and discovering it's nothing more than a freaky cloud. That just about manages to balance out my immense disappointment at the lack of punchy. Number 2. Playa del Amor. If you're familiar at all with fantasy or romance novels, you'll be familiar with something like this: a beautiful island hidden away in the middle of nowhere, with a hidden beach and a big hole for the sun to shine right through. But this is not fiction, my friends. Welcome to Mexico. Playa del Amor, also known as the Hidden Beach, is found on one of Marietta Islands, west of Puerto Vallarta. These islands are natural wonders formed by underwater volcanic eruptions. But the mysterious gaping hole that sits above the hidden beach is allegedly not a natural creation whatsoever. According to local rumors, the beach was once a resting site for the Mexican government. The impact from the weapons and artillery created the vast hole that allows the sun to shine on the beach so perfectly. For those of you interested in visiting, you can be sure that the site is no longer an artillery resting site, so you can feel free to lounge on the beach and have a good time without the risk of being needlessly attacked, assuming of course that you're willing to swim or kayak through the water tunnel to get out of there. Number 1. Whirlpools. I don't think I have to explain what a whirlpool is, right? They're nature's garbage disposals, but yeah, it's much worse. Those of you who are somewhat familiar with old sailing legends and stories will be aware of how deadly these things can be. There are literally thousands of tales of ships being sucked into huge sinkholes, though it's usually only the smaller vessels that are in serious danger. Still, whirlpools are dangerous things, as you can see from this footage. A whirlpool is what happens when opposing currents collide. If they're big enough, the whirlpool can become what's known as a maelstrom, a huge body of rotating water capable of taking down fast ships. Those are the ones you hear about in old pirate stories, though. We should note that those stories are obviously unverified. Still, pirates were pretty wild and crazy, so it's not outside the realm of possibility. If you ever see a whirlpool in person, the best thing you can do is to run in the exact opposite way and just go about your day as usual. Because, I mean, come on, what kind of nut job would run into one of these things? Oh wait, right, there are people who chase tornadoes. What's the weirdest natural phenomenon you've ever seen? Let us know in the comments. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time.